Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call tonight's meeting to order. Today is Tuesday, March 28th, 2017. It's about 7:02 p.m. We have a board meeting, and following the board meeting, we will have a committee of the whole meeting. I would ask everyone to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sherby, would you please call the roll?
Present.
Trustee Celestino.
Present.
Trustee Perry.
Present.
Trustee Rita.
Present.
Trustee Stecker.
Present.
Trustee Yorkovich.
Present.
President Bowie.
Present, we do have a quorum, and again, I thank everybody for attending the meetings. Do we have any presentations?
We do not.
Item number 5, do we have any public comments to give as many visitors as possible an opportunity to speak, and in the interest of adjourning by 9 p.m.? Please limit your comments to 3 minutes in length unless further time is granted by the board. Are there any comments or questions from the audience in regards to our active agenda or general matters that we may be able to answer? Going once. Public comment. Going twice. Going 2.5. Going 3 times. The next item is our consent agenda. We have items A through H. We have item A, approval of record of bills ending 3/23/17 in the amount not to exceed $745,511.20. Approval of minutes, although we are going to pull the committee of the whole and the executive.
For March.
Yes, for March 14th. I'm sorry, Michael. That's all, Sherby, we got? Okay. Item number C, an ordinance amending section 1401-110 entitled Fees, Article 11 entitled Permits of Chapter 1401, entitled Administration of Title 14, entitled Buildings and Construction of the Westchester Municipal Code. Item D, an ordinance amending section 5.92010 and section 14.52040 of the Westchester Municipal Code. Item E, an ordinance authorizing the issuance of a joint purchasing resolution for the purchase of rock salt for the village of Westchester. Item F, an ordinance authorizing sign variations for the property located at 1926 Manheim Road, Westchester, which is the Palmer Florist. Item number G, a resolution authorizing the execution of a facade improvement grant between the village and Palmer Florist and of the property at 1926 Manheim as stated above. Resolution approving the amendment of the Village of Westchester Home Flood Proof Assistance Program. Mike, I would ask you for G and H, do we need to put a dollar amount in those to comply? Are we good enough with that?
Actually, I'm glad you asked that. The appellate court has recently, the Supreme Court has recently overturned the public access counselor's decision with regard to the specificity needed with regard to the recitation of the titles. So it's my opinion that we don't need to put the dollar amounts in here anymore.
Not even for the record of bills? None of that?
The record of bills,
Yeah.
I think as a matter of due course, you guys always put that in there, but I'm talking about supplementing like any of these ordinances. If we're buying, I know the rock salt's a bad example because we don't have a fixed price yet, but if we were buying something, we don't have to put that price in there.
Well, I would ask Melissa, I mean, I like the specificity myself, plus the transparency that sometimes we get challenged on. Do we have numbers for those, Melissa, on G and H?
For G, the reimbursement amount would be $2,468, and then
$2,468 for G?
Yep.
Okay,
And
and
then
H?
for H,
We had a
I think
range.
it's a
didn't we?
maximum of $1,500, I believe. $1,500. Yes.
Max 1,500.
course, this is the ordinance simply adding the generators
To it, correct.
to it, so it doesn't really have a price, but the amount that, the maximum amount of those grants are limited to $1,500 per applicant.
And I would also add that we're looking at 2,000 tons for the rock salt, is that correct? And then item number D, 5.92010. Is that,
One is the garage sale fees, and the second one is the fee for the compliance inspections.
sections? Okay, and those are under item D. Okay. Does anybody need anything pulled?
I'd actually like to pull C and D for discussion and
C and D?
separate vote,
I'm sorry?
for discussion and separate vote on those two.
Oh, okay. All right, so what we have is we've made additional edits to the consent agenda, and we've pulled the March 14th Committee of the Whole and the exec session minutes, and C and D will do separately. Anybody else need anything pulled? If not, is there a motion and a second for the approval of A, B, portions of B, E, F, G, and H?
So moved.
Second.
Tommy, Frank, you're the second?
Carl.
Carl.
Oh, I'm sorry, Carl. Carl and Frank on that. Anything additional? If not, roll call, please.
Trustee Celestino.
Aye.
Trustee Perry.
Aye.
Trustee Rita.
Aye.
Trustee Stecker.
Aye.
Trustee Yorkovich.
Aye.
Trustee Calcagno.
Aye.
President Bouvier.
Aye, motion carries. Item number C, an ordinance amending section 1401 entitled The Fees. Angelo pulled. Is there a motion and a second for approval?
So moved.
Angelo. Celeste? Angelo.
So, I just want to understand a little bit more on that. Was it were there increases on all the permit fees? Or just some of them, or what was? Because there's
Some
a
of
whole
the-
list of, permit fees there. I'm trying to get an understanding of what we're,
Some of them increased and some of them went down.
okay.
Do you want me to provide the,
No, what's the purpose of some of them being increased anyways? What was the,
I did a survey of surrounding communities and to try to be in sort
I
of
mean,
in the average.
was there an increased expense on our end, or just because the surrounding communities are at that, rate, or?
Yeah, I
No.
just surveyed
Because I gotta be
surrounding
honest with you, I'm
communities.
always against raising fees on construction permits and, contractor vendor, fees and stuff like that. I just think that's kind of, unless there's a direct correlation to, the fees, the expenses on our end, the fees going up, I'd really like to have, some more justification behind that.
Okay,
So-
I can provide additional documentation. I had surveyed, other communities in the West Cook area.
Yeah, I just don't like raising fees because everybody else did, or because we want to raise
Well-
fees.
Well,
I
it
just
depends.
think,
Would you like to, if I may interject, on page 15, it says 15 on the bottom, you have A through W. Were all or any of those, or which ones were increased?
I'm sorry, I was unprepared. I did not bring all of my backup documentation to show how each of the separate fees changed. But I can provide that.
yeah, I'm just looking at, I want to make sure that we're not just raising fees just to raise fees, that we have some justification behind it.
You want to table it then, too?
Yeah, I mean, I really would like to
Melissa?
table that
If I may.
and get us what went up, what went down, give us the difference on,
Red line copy or
yeah,
something?
red line copies and stuff like that.
Absolutely, I can do that.
Melissa, when we got together and talked about it, there were some increases on our end, some things that would take longer, or,
Yeah, and some justification as to why
Right.
we're raising those particular ones. Not just that we're raising them.
Well, I think I would ask the people that made the motion, if you'd like to table this, we'll go around the horn, all in favor
I
of
would.
tabling it?
I'd be okay with tabling it.
Okay.
Need a voice vote?
All those in favor of tabling this until we get additional information, please say aye.
Aye.
So we'll put it on our next board agenda, and then in the meantime, we could get the additional data that was required. All right, item number D.
You want to just table that as well?
Well, we gotta open it for
Yeah,
discussion.
motion and a
Yeah,
second
I'm
again.
motioning.
Angelo? Tommy, do you want the second?
I'll take the second.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, basically the same thing on this. You know, why we're raising it, and, you know.
All right, so, this motion to table then.
I don't know, maybe maybe Melissa can explain
This
this
one's a
one,
little bit more
since it's a
simple.
little bit
It's more of
simpler.
a one line, you know.
Yeah, so,
Yeah, was there a reason why we're raising this one?
Based on the number of times that we go out to do inspections for compliance inspections, I thought it made sense to increase the fee.
This is only for compliance, not for garage sales, and,
One of them is for garage sales, because the thought was if we have to issue something in the office, there's a cost incurred for that, and so we added a nominal fee.
There's a
We were
$10
gonna
fee
also
for that.
$10
advertise.
fee, okay.
Weren't we also gonna put it in the newsletter for them?
And, yeah, if they
They were
get
gonna
it
get some
to
free
us in time, we
advertisement
can
out
add
of
it to the newsletter or add it on the online calendar.
All right. Well, that's fine, as long as, you know, we can justify why we're gonna charge, you know, a fee for whatever we're doing.
I guess one of the questions that I know we're gonna, in the event that this goes forward, that when we have that whole village garage sale where there's,
Which is coming up.
where there's probably, I don't know, 50, yeah, I'm saying at least 50 houses, is at $10 per each, or are we prepared to, because it's a village-wide one, to do something differently? I mean, just throwing it out there, because you know we're gonna be asked.
Well, and that
by
would
them
open up
people.
to someone else doing a group one on their block.
Yeah,
Right,
I
and
mean,
they
just
do
so
have
we
block,
know.
they do
Yeah.
have block ones, so is everybody on the hook for $10, or,
I don't know,
yeah?
so.
'Cause I think that one kinda needs to have a little bit more discussion behind it. I propose we table that one as well.
And then there's the other piece of that, temporary certificates of compliance, that's a $25, or was that $225 administrative fee? And the other one above that, reinspection, is a $125 fee. Yeah, I would agree, it should be tabled as well. So is there a motion on the floor to table that? Those?
Yes.
All those in favor of tabling it for our next agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition, say no. Stand tabled as well.
If-
looks like
Wanna make a
Melissa
point.
wants to make a point.
I won't be at the next meeting, so I wouldn't table it I mean, I don't, unless you guys want to have the discussion without me.
I thought there was some exchange of correspondence regarding delaying the effective date of this until you return from your leave.
That's
And
right.
now that we're tabling it tonight, I think we're going to run into that leave, are we not? Because the next meeting, you'll be on a leave of
I
absence
mean, could we get some
for
of this information
some period of
provided
time.
prior to you leaving, and then, you know,
I mean, Janet or whatever, if there needs to be a special meeting just for that specific topic, we can do that as well.
Do we ask for this before? I mean, this has been on the
I
couch
don't
twice now.
remember, honey.
Yeah, it was on the agenda in
Why now?
February. And then I think you may have been absent from that meeting, so it was put over to a meeting that Melissa would return at. So that's why it's on tonight, so.
So,
I mean, if you're going to circulate written report on this, maybe it's enough for the board to go ahead, but I think, I was going to say the same thing that you brought up, that you were not going to be at the next meeting, so. So you're going to need to get your questions answered before which date?
Sometime in the next 2
Any
weeks.
minutes?
I mean, otherwise, we're
At
just
the
gonna
very
work on
least.
current fees.
April.
right.
Yeah,
So,
but I guess what I'm asking is if this has been on the cow twice, why are we asking for new information, or did we not get the information we asked for?
do you know why we're raising the fees?
Well, again, if it's been on the cow twice,
I'm
why
asking
are
you,
we asking that
do you
now?
know why we're,
As far as the compliance, yes, I do know, because it's taking us more time to do compliance, and we're going back more times.
So
So she's trying to get this done before she goes on leave.
we don't have any documentation, nothing that shows what fees are, I mean.
Well, that's what I'm asking. Did
Yeah.
we not get what we wanted?
I didn't.
Or are we asking new questions?
Yeah, no, I didn't, so I'm looking for a little bit more justification as why we're gonna raise fees.
Yeah, I think we should.
We have a
go-
hard enough time getting residents to pull permits for anything anyways,
Right, yeah.
let
I
alone
agree with
raising
it.
fees on them.
Maybe we should go through that list that she has there and see what is either plus or minus.
Right.
At the least.
Melissa, maybe you can work with us and we can get a red line. I thought we had a red line version that was presented at an earlier meeting, but maybe we can get that version and it'll highlight what the changes were.
Yeah,
I know, I know not every section, not every line was changed
No,
in
right.
that ordinance, so a red
Yeah,
line
we'll
version.
get a red line, you know,
That's-
and, you know,
Sure, absolutely.
And I think we produced one at an earlier meeting, but if you can get that and then the explanation on the justifications for those changes, you'll have to add that. Okay, so we still need to vote on the motion to
To
table.
All those in favor of tabling this,
aye.
say aye. Aye. Try to get it on the next meeting, or if has to be a special in between, we'll figure that out.
Really only heard one side of the room voting
Aye.
on this one. To table,
All
okay.
right, thank everybody said yes. Item number 7, active agenda and ordinance amending chapter 1403 entitled International Residential Code 2012 of the Westchester Municipal Code. If I'm not mistaken, this is the
The stucco.
first floor brick stucco.
Yes, and technically, we did not,
I'm looking at the
you
board.
brought this up at in your president's report, I believe, so we really haven't talked about it. It has not appeared on a committee of the whole agenda, so we would need a motion to waive the committee of the whole report on this item.
I'll motion to waive the.
Motion to waive. I know the people came here and spoke in public comments, but it was not an active agenda item. So Tommy
I'll second that.
and Frankie to waive. We need a roll call vote, and we need a supermajority. Roll call, please.
Trustee Perry?
Aye.
Trustee Rita?
Aye.
Trustee Stecker?
Aye.
Trustee Yorkovich?
Aye.
Trustee Calcagno?
Aye.
Trustee Celestino?
Aye.
President Bouyer?
Aye, motion carries. What I'd like to do is tender my survey. It is probably 90-some% accurate.
You're slipping.
right.
Only 90?
Well, you gave me one that I didn't consider, but at the end of the day, I went around town and looked at all the buildings. And if you look, like I said last time, there were 2 that were made stucco back in the 50s. And a few that had added stucco after the fact. And I know the one that Nick had and the one on Suffolk, 1857. And there was a question on 1446 Westchester Boulevard. But for all intent and purposes, those were pretty much approved by our building commissioner at some point in time. So, with that being said, I think we had a comment relative to that, and I asked Melissa to do a little research. I do not want to allow new construction with siding and that, but I think in these cases here, they've added the stucco over the brick that was there. I don't believe the brick was taken down on any of these. And there is a lot of new products on the market that are almost like a siding panel that looks like brick, that you could drive by and would believe it's brick. We actually took a pass on the house on Downing, and everybody in the car said, boy, that looks halfway decent, it looks nice. So, I think what Melissa has done is looked at that, and it is proposing to make an edit to our code that that type of stucco work, as long as it's over brick, or the fake sandstone looking brick panels, although they could be considered siding, would be an allowable construction material. So it's up to the board if they wish to
And this
change
is-
that or add that.
This is for existing homes, correct? Like you
Yes,
said, not
new
for
construction. No. So,
The
Mike, you have a
question, the question that I had raised when I was preparing this was, we were talking about putting this material over existing brick. Existing brick then would have been existing face brick, because you required face brick. But then, what happened if you had a new home built and someone was going to put stucco on it? I questioned whether we wanted to mandate that the builder install face brick and then cover it with stucco, or allow common brick, which would mean if somebody ever down the road took that stucco off, they'd have to incur the expense of pulling that common brick off and replacing it. So this ordinance says it's got to be placed over face brick. So if it's new construction, even though you're putting stucco on it, you have to put face brick on it.
I'm good with that.
My question with regard to this list is, are these items, the locations that list siding, is that,
It's like
you
a
know,
garage siding, plastic or wood
okay,
siding.
that's not permitted
These were-
even under this amendment, so.
Right, that's correct. These were
These were
constructed back in
as
the
such.
fifties, and it was in Nick's old neighborhood, the
Yeah.
majority of those.
Yeah, all these are like, that's what I was gonna say, all
Original.
these are originally constructed as such.
So they're grandfathered in
Yes.
then, because it was predating the ordinance,
That's-
okay.
That's correct. Those
Okay.
are all built
But
in
we
the
wouldn't
late
allow
40s
that
and 50s.
currently,
No.
even under this new revised.
That is
You
correct.
couldn't put face brick and then cover it with siding. so.
Correct. That's
Okay.
correct. So I would ask that my document be placed in the record as well.
Yeah.
Sam, I have one more question.
Sure, Mike.
We specifically excluded like drive-it type material because that's on fiberglass. And you're talking about garage siding, I hit my garage with my snow blower, and, you know, that dented that material there, but that's on a garage. If that was on my home, do you want that type of fiberglass material to be on there? And that's why we excluded drive-it type material. So you will not permit that then? Okay.
I don't believe the board wishes
All right.
to include
Not on the
that.
first floor, I should
Right.
say.
Is that correct, everybody? Any issues
I mean, that's the
with
way I kind of understood
I
it.
know,
Okay.
that? Okay.
I'm trying to find it.
So, there's a motion and second on the floor to place it on the active agenda. I would ask for a motion and a second to approve an ordinance amending Chapter 1403, International Residential Code 2012, as explained at this meeting. Is there a motion?
Second.
Second, I'm sorry, Frankie? Let's do a roll call, please.
Trustee Rita?
Aye.
Trustee Stecker?
Aye.
Trustee Yorkman?
Aye.
Trustee Calcagno?
Aye.
Trustee Celestino?
Aye.
Trustee Carey?
Aye.
President Hughes?
Aye, motion carries. Item number B, a motion to authorize the issuance of an RFP for refuge pickup. I know we've discussed this at a number of meetings, and at our last committee of the whole meeting, I suggested that we take a vote to either issue an RFP, and the vote will determine whether we are or aren't. So I would ask for a motion to authorize the issue of a RFP for refuge pickup. As everyone knows, our contract expires in the end of June, so July 1st with Waste Management. So, is there a motion on this?
So moved.
Nikki, is there a second? I'm sorry, Angel, was that you, Angel?
Yeah, no, I'm not, I didn't second it. I just had a question on this. So if we decide.
Can we,
Well, wait, we gotta
can we
get-
get a
need a
second?
second.
A second,
discuss,
okay,
yeah.
second, I'll second it.
All right, well, now we can start discussion, that's okay. All right, Angelo?
Yeah, I'm just curious, no, so if we decide not to go out for an RFP right now, what are our options?
Our options are, we have to enter into, well, we have to
1 year.
put an RFP together, and,
It's already,
It's
No, he
already
said
here.
it- If he said it's, if we don't go out to
If we
RFP.
don't, if we didn't go out for an RFP, no, I mean, do we have the option for a 1-year extension and then,
well, we would have to negotiate with our current vendor and/or any other vendor for an extension. I'm certain that you would start negotiations with Waste Management, and obviously they would have to decide whether they're willing to entertain a year hiatus. We would have to also discuss what the fee structure would be, and I think we would also have to discuss what is or isn't going to be picked up, as there was a new component in their original proposal for the electronic stuff. So,
Or, there's an or,
or,
they have a proposal, Waste Management has a proposal for a
Currently, yeah.
multi-year
or,
contract.
right, or a
Right now.
multi-year
I'm just
contract.
saying, yeah, I'm just looking at short term here, allowing us more time to, you know, I mean, technically, I think a year ago, we should have been probably looking at this and deciding what we were gonna do then, and took our time putting something together versus, you know, getting it shoved down our throat at the last minute, and now we're here, either we take it or we don't, or we going out for an RFP, and
Well, I think, you know, in all reality, we've had a great relationship with Waste Management dating back to the 80s, I recall.
Right.
And, you know, it's been good service. If there's ever been a hiccup, we made a phone call, and
I mean, even with an
the
RFP.
hiccup
if-
was taken care of, you know.
If we
so.
get a vendor comes in, we see a vendor that's, you know, giving us just a little bit better deal, we still we still have the problem of having to buy all new totes, change over, go through all this stuff,
Well,
and,
that's,
you know,
I mean, that is the issue, and you run the risk, you know, there is a risk here, that when you go out to RFP, that the rates could be higher. I mean,
Higher.
on the positive end, I mean, the conversations that we've had with Waste Management indicates that there is a 5-year savings, so to speak, as I understand it, that the rate that we're being charged now will actually be the rate 5 years from now. So there's a 10% savings, and there's some at-your-door service that's available for the electronic piece, which makes all of us that are, including yourself, that's been schlepping television sets around. Some of the places that are out there have stickers, and I could tell you from the days when my wife was on the board, that the board shuddered to think that we were gonna have people have to go to Jewel or Dominic's at the time, or any other place to buy stickers for yard waste. We certainly worry about fly dumping and all that kind of stuff. It's bad enough now with some of the fly dumping on televisions that we're doing. So
have we
that's a
talked with
decision of the
Waste
board.
Management about just maybe doing a short extension, or, you know, a short-term extension, so that we have time to, you know, kinda look at this a little bit better?
I'm not
Would that
aware
be an
of
option, or?
Vicky? I'm not
You know what, one of my questions, at the last meeting, I guess is still one of my questions. When we had looked at the average, or they had the average rate and the senior rate, and when we had the comparables, that's what I was looking at. Is that the average of the two rates, or is that the base rate?
I called the consultant that the Solid Waste Agency has used to provide us the comps, and none of the other comparable communities are offering a senior rate. We are the only one that's offering a senior rate.
So those are all just base rates then for everybody? All right. And I guess my argument today is my same argument as last time, is why couldn't that information have been provided to us prior to today? I mean, because that's why I'd ask specifically if we could speak to Neil James and look at this second proposal, and see how it compared, how we felt that it would be, and we could talk about some more of the logistics. So, because although there's a considerable savings, we were saying like, oh, the minus the 150, and it really isn't the minus 150, or was it 250 or?
125.
125. I mean, that's not it. If this is what we're paying, you're not subtracting it for the service. They're providing a service that has a value, I guess, associated with it of $1.25. But if they're throwing it in, then this is still what I'm paying. So taking that number, subtracting it, trying to move us down into the comparables, that's why I wanted to have a better idea. I wanted to talk to Neil, and there's been no correspondence.
Well,
I mean,
Can't answer your
that-
question
that's where-
other than.
That's where I have a problem with this. I mean, it's just, and time is of the essence, and I just don't understand why it's hard to communicate.
I just think we need more time to look at this and, you know, possibly look at Waste Management giving us an extension and put some more effort into, you know, getting all the right information.
It's up to the board. Well, there's a motion on a second, on the floor, unless you want to table this, which gives us some time constraints.
Well,
to-
and I mean,
to
I
go
mean, I'm
further.
fine
I
even
mean,
with
I'm not
having a
sure what you
special
wanna
meeting.
do.
I'm fine even with having a special meeting regarding this. All I want is just the information before I have to vote. Last time, you know, there was a stack.
Yeah, is there any, let me ask you this, is there any additional information, now that Janet has provided the answer to that question, albeit not in the timeline to the liking, is there any other additional information that you need?
Well, I just wanted to speak with the consultant, just talk to Neil, talk to, like, all these other options that we've talked about, and compared to what was drafted up in the RFP, how big of the, if there's 8 or 10 vendors that provide all these, do they all provide all of these services that they're currently putting on the table to us?
Right, are we truly getting,
Apples to apples.
yeah, you know, what they're offering compared to what anybody else could
Yeah,
offer?
I mean, they provide a great service, no doubt. He's given us a much better rate, and the services are second to none. But once again, I just wanted to make sure that now we're talking about this at your door recycling. If there's anybody else that even offers these types of things, or if this is going to be unique, and it's not going to be apples to apples, if we want to get all of these services. But that's why I wanted to talk. That's why I want to talk to him.
Before we go out for an RFP and find out that it could go one way or the other, like you said, we could end up getting higher prices or,
Well, that's always the danger. I mean,
Right, even if we went with this 5-year contract, which, whatever, we're not gonna probably do it, but it is what it is, but it's 12% savings the first year, 9%, 5% too, and then that's where we're spending money, and it's all negative 1% the last year.
So,
The
I
at
mean,
your door is exclusive to Waste Management.
Nobody else does anything close
No.
to that.
well, we'll ask Fawn. I mean, I hate to put you on the spot, sir, but, you know, this is your business. Do you know of any other, you can see the quandary that we're in. You've been here at 4 or 5 different meetings. You've been in some conversation with, you know, the trustees and Janet. Obviously, we're trying to get the best bang for our buck. As a municipal, we want to be the lowest in the 105 communities in Cook County. I mean, that's the end of the day.
yeah, I mean, I think we're all in agreement, we're not doubting their service.
No.
No, I mean, how long have they been here?
But we
Over
do have
30
an
years,
obligation,
right?
you know, to
Since
make
the
sure that
80s.
we-
Yeah, the
Yeah,
service isn't
so-
the issue.
So,
Yeah,
I mean,
it's about money. So the question is, do you know of any, 2 questions, I'll ask one first. Do you know of any other waste hauler that provides this service, or is this new? And I think it's new, but is it exclusive to you at this particular minute?
The full scope of the household hazardous waste and electronics is exclusive to Waste Management at this point.
Exclusive to Waste Management. Okay. And I guess the other question it begs to be asked, you've heard conversation from the trustees. Do you believe that you are willing to discuss any extension for a lesser amount of time at the expiration, or prior to the expiration of the present contract?
I think we've discussed that previous. I mean, ideally, of course, we'd like to get the new 5-year contract, but if the board wishes to extend it, you know, for a year, that's what we had offered previous.
And is there a rate associated with that? And then, let me ask you this, it would exclude, it would be the present service as we enjoy. It wouldn't include the electronics at this point, is that correct?
Not at this point, Sam, but that's something that, you know, as far as rates and so forth, we can discuss.
All right, so if we said we wanted to extend for a 1-year period, you're amenable to that?
Yes.
Okay. And then what would happen is we would discuss the rate for the 1 year, And we would also certainly have a figure in mind if we wanted to include the hazardous waste. And you're amenable to that as well.
I will take that back and ask if we can do that.
Okay.
And one other thing, I know we discussed this, I'm not sure if there was a number put to it. The replacement of the totes, did we have like an estimated cost of what it would cost to replace all those totes in the village?
Well, there's approximately 15,000 toters. It would depend on what another hauler
I mean,
is
because that's a big
requiring.
number to take into consideration
And
right now.
We don't know that.
And
Well, I
then-
mean, if we can get
and
an
I'm worried
average
about the
cost of
missing
what the
ones.
totes are, what the totes cost right now, even what Waste Management would charge for those totes right now.
Vaughn had indicated in a prior meeting, $40 to $60, depending on the size.
Go ahead, Carl.
I provided the manager when, because the village of Skokie purchases their own totes, and I have that, I gave that information.
Yeah, I believe it was in the range of what we had been quoted by Vaughn.
So I mean, if we can kind of pick an average number there, you know, so we have a roundabout cost, whether it's gonna cost us, you know, 100,000, 50,000, you know, what is it gonna cost us?
7,200 homes.
Yeah,
You know, some have more than one
Right.
tote, but for average, let's say, one blue one, one green one, 196 and 133 or whatever that is. Multiply that out by 7,000 just
Yeah.
for round
well, I mean,
numbers.
it's just a big number that we have to consider.
Does the RFP
So we're gonna save a
include
couple dollars.
every single benefit that we have currently with Waste Management in the
It will,
RFP?
yes, because we want to have as close to apples as we can, but clearly,
But I
we're
thought-
never going to be there because of the exclusive.
But wasn't the RFP already done?
I have a draft. I have not submitted it back to them pending resolution of this renewal.
Yeah, Mike said it's about 280,000 on
At
at
$40
$40
for
bucks.
7,000 toters.
But that's,
That's only one
And double
total.
that's one total.
You got two.
Yeah, it's
I'm
one-
just
yeah,
saying.
so let's say-
Yes.
So if it's $90.
So that's $500,000.
You're looking at $500,000 to replace totes.
Total.
Yeah.
That's,
That will be added.
that's because someone's gonna be added or amortized over a 5-year I mean, the
Yeah.
question that's out there that we don't know the answer to, if this board wants to have the electronics collected, and it's quite possible, we don't know, if anybody else is gonna do that, there may only be one bidder. I mean, I don't know. I don't know the answer to
No,
that.
and I get it, that's why I just wish, if the draft has been completed, like, this way we could have sat down with them and said, hey, do all these people offer all these services? If this is gonna,
The
wind down
consultants
to.
don't know that.
they-
That would be the result of circulating the RFP.
Isn't that what they do, though?
They did a price analysis
I mean, we could probably
for
done
us.
a price analysis through FOIA or something, I mean.
Right, but that is the information they provided at this level. They're not going to, unless we circulate an RFP and then analyze each proposer based on the qualification, the criteria that we've got, that's how we're gonna find that out. That information isn't out there.
I just would think the solid waste agency would have.
They do
If
not.
there's somebody that would have a good idea as to what these services, what types of
Neil
services.
is not performing this. He has contracted this out to a consultant through a company called CBI. And that's who provided those comps and who, basically, he told me, yeah, that's what he did. He looked at their contracts and pulled the rates. So
I mean,
we paid for
could've
this
done that.
service, right? And what they're basically have put together is a template of the RFP, which we're gonna make sure has every specificity that we want in it, but until that was circulated and analyzed to see what each one is providing, that's why they were allowing these 4 weeks, circulated, give them 4 weeks to respond, give staff 4 weeks to analyze them. If you recall, it was a 3 to 4 month process.
Yeah, but
once
that's why
it
I
was
thought that they
circulated.
were gonna have the contracts in hand and they would know specifically what services are being offered by all of these. I mean, I could just call
No.
somebody. and
No,
listen,
no, the RFP's gonna have to specify what types of services we want so that everybody's bidding
No, I
on the
understand that, but
same
when I was
service.
talking about the comparables, as to, we would probably be able to have a gauge as to what companies offer these. Because, I mean, if we're doing all this, if we've already decided, if we decided months ago that we don't want to change any of the services, and now these guys are only throwing more services at us at a much reduced rate, then why would we waste the time? But that's why I thought that this was the information from the consultants that we would be getting.
Well, I think you're gonna find that they all offer, yard waste pickup. It just depends on how you wanna charge it. Do you want that built in to your rate that you charge each homeowner? Do you wanna have a bag where they gotta purchase it and it's included? If you have the paper bag, that's where I live, how it's done. Do you wanna have the sticker program? They'll give you prices based on how you say that. If you don't specify that, you'll get all these different alternatives and you'll
Yeah, and
go
it would be
crazy trying
apples
to
oranges. No, I
figure
get
it out. But I think they would all, with the exception of this electronic pickup, they provide those services. And I'm not representing that they don't provide that, but Waste Management tonight said their competitors don't have that service, so.
Well, we could certainly do this. We could certainly make a call to each one of the vendors that were listed, and if there's any ones out there, and ask them if they are looking to have an electronic waste component to it. Because it appears, from what I gather from the board, that that's some kind of service that we want to provide.
Oh, it's a wickedly popular idea.
I'm sorry?
It's a wickedly popular idea.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I'm thinking that, so again, if there's a phone call made to whomever, and you could even make it on the, as a citizen and not even a government agency, and say, hey, are you planning to provide any electronic pickup? I mean, you might knock everybody out of the water that gave information. So, I would suggest that if you guys want. You talked about a special meeting. If Melissa's still with us sometime next week, you can put that and this, because that should be a conversation that we can have. We could do those two things next week if you wish. I mean, it's totally up to you.
And that
Yes,
was
sir.
from Isaiah. I just want to point out, the Agri-Door program is, again, not just an electronics program.
Hazardous waste, I mean,
Hazardous
it's
waste, paint,
everything.
Everything.
If you just ask the question electronics, you'll get a totally different answer than if you ask, household hazardous waste that includes electronics.
I included, it's gonna be, whatever you're throwing out there, I wanna know if they're planning to or not planning to, so.
If I may too, again, that's exclusive to Waste Management. The land tracker program that we talked about in the meeting, that type of program is relatively exclusive to Waste Management as well. Organics, we talked about in the meeting, we are the leader in providing organic service. Oak Park is the leader by far, and we've been servicing them for a number of years. They have municipalities call them constantly to get guidance on how to do organics. So we talked about having that type of service for the residents. Our recycle off, recycling education program that you guys had asked about too. That is a new program that's unique to Waste Management. A lot of vendors will have recycling education, but this is specific to changing people's behavior. So a lot of the things that we have, and I updated this list if you'd like to have a copy. A lot of the things that you have currently and have added, I mean, you have quite a package here. You have quite a package here. So, if I may, I'd just like to pass this out.
Thanks.
Thank you.
As you've probably seen it before, it's just updated
read
a little bit. Last time, I had forgot the organics piece, so I went and added that.
Thanks.
I mean, if everybody's
Thank you.
not liking the 5-year, would it be prudent to maybe even do like a 3-year?
To make the
Well,
profit,
we're getting
to
ahead
make,
of ourselves.
Yeah.
I mean, the issue at hand is, do we do an RFP, yes or no? That's what the motion is on
Yeah.
that.
Right.
After this vote, then we can discuss
Right.
what is
Well,
our next step. I think we need
I
to
think
take the vote
we-
first.
Well, I think what we're gonna have to do, if there's still some unanswered questions, you know, that we don't have it this time. It might be too premature to ask that. I mean, I'm ready myself, but, you know, that's only one person. You know, one of the options that we don't have, that I see that the Village of Oak Park has, you have a different price setup for a 96 versus a 64-gallon tote. I don't know if that's just on the garbage, because I think all the other ones are 33, aren't they, the blue ones? Is there a reason, potentially, because I can say for myself, I very seldom put out the big can. I mean, I recycle more than I have garbage. And I would imagine that a number of the seniors out there are in that bailiwick as well, that they could get by with a 64 without toting that big 96 out there, and that, you know, maybe it would be possible in the event that we're going further with some discussions to maybe consider that, like Oak Park does as well. And then you could do a swap out of that. And, you know, we would know who had what kind of toter, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, you do it in Oak Park, so if you could do it in Oak Park with 60,000 people, we can do it with 16 relative of ease. I mean, for me personally, being here as long as I have, and my wife being involved as a trustee, and the things that Waste Management did when we asked to start recycling prior to even curbside recycling, that my wife was part of the board that brought that into the village. I'm very satisfied with the service. And again, we've made calls when we've had to make calls, and I think for the most part, people have been satisfied. You're always going to get the one-offs that some trash blew out and whatever, and I think the deal that you're offering over the 5 years is a benefit to all the residents, whether senior or not. And I'm not a guy that likes to take a chance, because all of a sudden, if it's more than, you know, and, you know, you're going to be competitive too, and I'm sure you look at other communities and what they're got going and who's doing what. I mean, you guys are all in the waste business. You're competitors. I just want us to be, for the next 5 years, the lowest with the best service that's possible. I think everybody on this board wants that. So I guess the question is, do you guys want to have a special, have some more conversation and get any more questions answered? Or did we answer enough questions that we can go ahead with either RFPing or not RFPing at this point in time and get off the nickel and go forward? So I'll leave it up to you. What would be your suggestion? I mean, we're going to have potentially a special along the way with the permit things, although not necessary. We're going to stay with the same collection until it's changed.
I'm in favor of giving it, you know, if we gotta give it another week, let's, you know.
Is there anybody else that's
I'm with
interested
Angelo.
in that?
I'm with Ange.
That's fine.
Okay, so let's, there's a motion on the floor. If we could change that to a tabling motion to a time certain, which would be, pick a date, pick a time.
Table it.
What's next Tuesday? What date is that?
Election day, that's what it is.
Oh, yeah.
Bad day. Can't do that day. What's Wednesday? Thursday? I don't care. Don't matter to me. I don't have a life, so don't matter.
Wednesday, okay, it's a cab, but
Or we're gonna have two issues. Anybody suggest another date? I mean,
I'll make it work.
Yeah, I mean, I'll make any day work next week.
Janet, anything on your plate, honey?
Earlier the better, naturally.
Well, Tuesday's out. Monday's usually a bad meeting night.
What time
So,
is your cab on Wednesday?
we're gonna do Wednesday?
Wednesday.
We
You
do it
got,
earlier?
cab.
you got cab. What
That's
time's your cab?
7.
7.
And
Yeah,
Do you
it's
think
six.
we can start at 6?
6?
And then hopefully we'll kick this 2 things around, we'll have all the data, and then you can go to your meeting at 7, or your people could come here and see how you operate.
well, it's in here anyways.
All right, so, let's see, I think it was Nick and Angelo on the motion. Would you mind changing that to a table, gentlemen?
Yes,
And then, we'll do it
Change it.
next Wednesday at 6. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, can we see if maybe Neil and his consultant then can maybe meet with us on either,
Monday?
I mean, I'd like to this week, so I could
Oh, well,
go
we
over
can do
sooner
it
than-
sometime
maybe
this week.
Thursday?
I'll check their schedules.
All right.
You're looking for an afternoon or what?
Whatever, I'm pretty flexible right now.
Who wants to attend the meeting?
No, I think
I
your
know, I do.
committee, right?
Yeah,
So, mid-afternoon, anything, or?
Just let me know.
yeah, see what they have,
You're gonna have a committee meeting when?
maybe Thursday?
What days
Got
don't work
48
this
hours,
week?
notice, so,
That's
Right.
just 2.
That's only 2.
It's just the two of us.
okay, is that a real committee, or is that just,
No, we put a committee together to
okay?
discuss.
Supposed to post
garbage.
notices
Oh,
for
well.
committee meetings.
All right, well then,
It's,
If you wanna just have 2 trustees meet without calling a committee meeting with Neil, then, that's not a meeting.
Okay, well, I think we'll just follow the
Have a
plan
meet-
that we've been
Don't have a
doing.
committee meeting without posting notice.
yeah.
If they
But
can't
2
make
trustees can
Thursday,
get together and talk about business,
There
and
you
it's
go.
not a meeting.
if they
Okay.
can't make Thursday, what's your other
Then
availability?
maybe Monday.
All right.
Sam? Excuse me.
Yes, sir.
Just
I'm
say
sorry.
a couple things just in closing. And I appreciate the time you've given me over the past 2 meetings. It's been a pleasure to, share information with you, talk with you. As you consider, this over the next week, a couple quick things. One is, all the services that we provide on the list I just gave you, it's a single source provider. We do not subcontract out anything. So all of it is done in-house. As I think several of you have stated, we're the known service provider. We know our service, the quality of service, dependability, reliability. So please take that into consideration. The driver continuity. Our drivers have been in here for a number of years. They know the town, they know the community, they know the type of service that your residents want and expect. Staying with us, there's no transition issues. Even trying to get the smoothest transition, there's going to be issues. And what that means is calls to the village hall, calls to you as well. So just keep that in mind. And as far as resources go, we have the labor, the vehicles, the financial resources to be a partner for you to provide all these services. You've experienced that in the past with the 2 funds. So I just wanted to share that and again, thank you guys for your opportunity.
Thank you.
Okay, so there's a motion and a second on the floor to table this until next Wednesday at 6 PM. Is that correct? Is that correct,
Yes.
everybody?
Yes.
Roll call, Sherby.
Trustee Stecker.
Aye.
Trustee Landry.
Aye.
Trustee Calcagno.
Aye.
Trustee Celestino. Trustee Perry.
Aye.
Trustee Vita.
Aye.
President Hoover.
Aye, motion carries. I think that's that. Janet, anything, honey?
Yes, I just wanted to remind the board and for any members of commissions who are listening that you have all received an email from Cook County regarding your statement of economic interest filing. The emails were sent out on March 20th. You were given an individual ID number to log in and file your statement of economic interest, which is mandatory, and that is due by May 1st, or you will be subject to late penalties. And just wanted to remind everybody, it was mentioned that Tuesday, April 4th is Election Day for our local election. Encourage everybody to come out and vote, and remind everyone that Village Hall is a polling place, so it will be very busy around here. So if you're coming to do any village business, please plan accordingly.
Thank you. Michael, anything?
no report?
Board members, Mr. Frank.
I really have nothing new to report. Thank you.
Sure you do.
Well,
Sure you do.
we actually do. We just swore in Paul Rehnquist for our EDC committee, And we're entertaining one more to join that will make our committee whole. So, yes, I
And
did
I think
have
we had the
something.
question for Mike. Mike, I did swear Paul Stenquist in the other day. Now, when Paul takes over, does he have to re-swear him in? Does his,
No, if you are an office
he's not
holder,
an officer.
well, he is yes, he's a member of the
He-
commission, so he's an officer appointed with the advice and consent of the board. So those people are de facto holdover officers until their successors are appointed and sworn in.
So they're okay?
Yes.
Okay, good.
They're
Thanks.
holdovers.
Right.
The new mayor can
But Paul could
replace them.
remove him and
Yes, they
whatever.
could at any time
Sure. Oh, right,
until
right.
he reappoints them. Then they become somewhat locked in and have to be removed by a vote of the board, so.
And I would suggest that, to Paul, because the majority of all of the commissions, except for, well, police and fire all expired as well. We did that pretty much by design, that Paul would attend one of your meetings in, subsequent to his election, if he so desires, and swear everybody in at your meeting, and then figure out your term pieces that might be already in your bylaws and that.
No, we're gonna need, for those that commission, we're gonna need to amend the ordinance if we wanna stagger everybody, because we
Are they all
amended
at
it
large?
so that they would end at your, end of your term. So we'd have to reinvent the wheel, so to speak, to stagger them again.
Well,
But
you'll-
they're holdovers, and they don't have to take a new oath.
Until they're
right.
replaced.
Until they're
Till-
reappointed, or a replacement would take the oath.
Good. Thanks for clarification. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Nick, anything?
No, we had a resignation from the Police and Fire Commission, so there's the one vacancy currently. That'll have to be something that gets filled sooner than later, due to the fact that it'll probably be difficult to have some meetings. I know they just canceled the one meeting because I think we have a police test coming up this year that we're due for, so to keep things moving forward. But I think you guys are good, Jimmy, and then, but just the police, we have some tests coming up, so.
Either third week of April? The police entrance, fourth week of April?
Fourth week April for the new eligibility list, and then, May 12th or something.
For promotion.
They're all on the way, going, finally got the vendor there, and that's all fine.
Well, I would imagine that this board probably has a few names to submit to what will be President-elect Paul Gattuso come April the 4th, and I would imagine that you want to get that to him right away, as there's some training, certainly Nick knows this, there's some training involved in assuming those roles. I would imagine that that Brian and Tom are still willing to serve, and that Brian should probably take the helm, I think, as the longest member.
If only there was a retired police officer with some municipal experience looking to maybe put in a couple extra hours.
We'll have to phone it in.
I don't know who that could be.
Phone it in.
I don't know who that could be. Thank you, sir. Celestine.
Nothing this evening, thank you.
Mr. Carl.
I would just like to remind the board and the members of the public that on Saturday, April 8th, we will be hosting our first electronics recycling event. Bring your Advil.
We already have a pickup to make.
Yeah.
This is a good opportunity for anybody in the public who would like to come out and serve their community.
And volunteers. Volunteers are always welcome and greatly appreciated. We will also be doing shredding at that event. So if you have any items that you need to have physical documents that need to be destroyed, you can do so. We will be hosting it from 9 to 11:30 at the Village Water Tower over on off of Enterprise Drive. So, and
Thank you, sir.
like I said, it is also for village residents only.
Thank you.
Just to piggyback on Carl, it is the largest one of the year normally, the first one. And since it is recycling, electronics, shredding paper, and I'm not sure, do the Boy Scouts, are
Carl,
they
do
gonna
you
be
come pick
collecting
up
shoes?
at the
Are we
house?
gonna be collecting food there? You know, we usually do
Not
take,
sure yet.
you know, normally we have like 4 stations kind of set up out there, so.
Well, we'll be prepared for this
We'll be
fourth
prepared for the
station.
word, yeah.
We've done it for so long that we should be a well-oiled machine by
Mhm.
now. So, although we are a year older. Tommy?
Nothing much, just that June 17th is the Get Out and Play Day at St. Joe's.
St. Joe's, thank you, sir.
And they're trying to get one of the alumni, Cam Meredith, who's a Chicago Bear, to come.
Oh, nice, that would be very interesting. Chief Stelter, please.
Good evening. As you know, as we were told in the past, they did some filming in town today, so that seemed to go real well. Haven't heard any complaints, anything going on. It's going real smooth, and they should be probably finishing up here in the next hour or two. But that went real well. And just so you're aware, coming up with spring and the rains and the long grass, like we went through last year, Melissa and Mike O'Hagan have been in communique, and that will be taken care of as we did last year, implementing the officers out there, making notes, filling in the cards, the addresses, and doing the system that we had last year. That seemed to work really well. So that'll be taken care of while Melissa's out on her maternity leave. And, as you know, just in reference to the call about a week and a half ago we had where we took all those weapons away from the resident and the community, just wanted to let you know that the state revoked the FYD card and concealed carry license, and we are in possession of those 2 documents, so everything is good to go on that.
Thank you, sir.
I
Chief.
don't have any real report tonight. I do want to extend the fire department's condolences to Officer Bricks, who had passed away, our last drug seizure dog that we had. The fire department works well with our brothers on the other side, and extend our sincere condolences to Deputy Chief O'Hagan, Officer Bricks, and that's it.
I see you're getting a new piece of a driveway.
Yeah, because it was, we had a huge crack develop over the last year or so that was, every time you drove over, you had water literally squirting out of it, so, kind of an emergency repair, especially after, thank goodness, we had a mild winter, otherwise it would have been much worse.
Yeah, it's at Station 2, in front of the, what would be the west door. Thank you.
Finance, nothing to report tonight.
Do we have enough money to pay everything we got here?
Yes, sir.
You sure?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Gregg?
Well, it wasn't a committee of the whole item, but just a very brief update on T-Mobile. We've given the go-ahead to Matt Holmes from Durkin's office to turn that document, which is the sample contract that he has reviewed, found some discrepancies with that he wanted changes made to. That'll be passed on to T-Mobile for their review, so the attorneys can begin that process. I can let Robert Lewis go in a little greater detail, but he received some pricing on what it would cost to remove the boiler. That comes out to about $9,500 at this point. We're waiting for another contractor to report back to us. Again, I'm going to have Robert Lewis provide more information on that. Larger portion of my last 2 weeks since last Wednesday has been updating all the computers, both for police and fire rigs, as well as the inside computers. That was the computer information systems update that we've been talking about, which is the reason we got the laptops. There were some minor hiccups, one-offs, nothing serious in terms of network-wide, but one computer here, one computer there having some issues. But otherwise, the software updates, as we've been talking about for a little while, waiting for these computers to arrive, has all gone fairly smoothly. And that's all I have.
Great, Gregory. Anything else for Greg?
No. I'll defer to Robert.
Robert?
Just on that T-Mobile for the mitigation of the boiler. About half of that price, we discovered that there's an asbestos jacket around, so about half the price is for mitigation, $4,500 for the boiler removal. So it's a little more expensive with the asbestos on it. We've contacted 2 other companies, and they expressed an interest but have not gotten back to us. So what we want to do is get all these costs in and then have that as part of our negotiations with T-Mobile to have them, they agreed for an upfront fee, but we want to make sure that fee is going to cover the cost for us to convert that space for them. We believe that they have a significant cost savings here in that they don't have to erect a tower, they don't have to go through a public meeting process, and they don't have to build an enclosure, and they don't have to bring in electricity. It's all provided there, and they seemed willing to negotiate those kind of fees. We just want to figure out what our true cost would be.
One last thing that you mentioned in the quote that was being provided, that would also include removing the other machine, the other device that's there.
Yeah, there's a
So that's-
condensation tank as well. It's about the same size as the boiler from the 50s that does not have an asbestos jacket. And they'd given us a second price. T-Mobile wasn't real concerned about that space and don't really want it, but we thought we would price it because the cost of hauling everything away, there's a mobilization cost, and if we did it all at the same time, we would open that whole space up. Didn't make sense to leave the condensation tank, which is quite large, sitting there while we remove the other tank. They got to take the door off the hinges and all that, so we thought we'd get a price to do it all. That's not part of the $9,500. That would be an additional cost. If we could get T-Mobile to pay for it, that'd be great. But if not, we might want to consider picking that up ourselves.
I could have told you there was asbestos. I watched a guy inside of there trying to repair it at one time, so.
Well, we did have it tested.
I'm saying I could have told you that flat out, so,
I had
anyway.
a couple other items.
Oh, go ahead, sir.
We do, every 2 years, we have to inspect the 3 bridges that we own. I wanted to pass out some of the photographs that we have. The first one going around the Gladstone Bridge. We are in the process of replacing Gladstone Bridge. It has a
That's up in 2018 to be replaced, or it's scheduled, correct? If I read something right, yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
Fiscal year 2018 for the state.
Mhm.
We've had 2 meetings with the state, and we're pre-qualified for federal funds for that project. We're also coordinating with the MWRDGC about the placement of the parapet for that bridge, where the bridge launches from, to open up Addison Creek. Because if you look at the floodplain maps, there's a longer east-west flooding area because of that bridge that blocks water from going downstream. So as part of this project, we want to include in the scope, moving the parapet out so we can reduce the effect of any 100-year flood. So that's part of it, and we're doing that expansion with that design. But it's gotten a little bit worse. It's been recommended from our consultant to us that we do annual inspections on this bridge because we may have to post no trucks, no buses on it if it gets any worse prior to construction. So it is failing rapidly. And I also wanted to pass out inspections on Wedgwood as well. We own that bridge. That has been deteriorating at a much more rapid rate than they thought. We may need to include some repair work along with the Gladstone Bridge replacement project. It makes sense to do them together. Patching, so it doesn't get in the state where it has to be replaced. And then the third package is Gardner Road, which is in a lot better shape than the other 2 bridges. So just wanted to pass that around and then let everyone know that the condition on both Wedgwood and Gladstone are in pretty rough shape. A number of years where not much was done. So we want to be more proactive with that. Also, 2 other smaller issues. We did meet with American Painting about repainting settlement issue that Mr. Durkin's office has worked through. We were dissatisfied with just the end result of that painting job that we paid for. So we met with them and we've come up with a schedule this morning. They want to begin in April and do 75 to 80 hydrants every month. We've given them a completion date as part of the settlement, mid-September, and they should meet that. We talked to them about some of the hydrants that experience a fair amount of rusting, and they agreed that they will clean it down to bare metal and do 2 coats for us. So by the end of September, we should have 475 hydrants repainted.
Robert, I don't know if you realize this, but at Community Center off of Bond, this hydrant may have been missed. I just noticed it the other day. I meant to call you and ask you. Right by the pool, right by that garage right there, it may have been missed in the first time around. If you have time, go check it out.
Yeah, okay. It is in bad shape?
Yes, it's in bad shape.
Okay.
It's by the community center.
We'll amend that list. He hasn't started yet. So.
I mean, if you want me to meet you out there, I could show you it. But it's right there by that first garage off of Bond, by the pool, at the back end of the pool.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I just noticed it the other day. I meant to call you, and then I got busy doing something else.
It is not on the list.
No.
I don't know that it was on the original.
Stop.
Okay.
And lastly, we finished the tuck pointing on the fire department and post office. That was the cause of some leaks over at the post office, so that's all done. We've done remediation work on the seams that opened up through the new silicone roof done under warranty, so we sealed it up. The last rain event had no leaks. So hopefully, that's it. We've done everything that was noticed and looked at and suspected, caught, tuck pointed, and then repaired cracks. So.
Robert, have they given you any rationale or reason why they think those seams split?
Yes. Their speculation is that the building is moving, it's settling, and it might be the train that goes by. Said, well, you inspected the site before you gave us a bid.
Or the truck
You
that go
didn't
down
know there
the
was a
road,
train
or-
there. I don't know. Their tracks are there. So they think that the train imparts some movement in the building, and the building settles, and that's how some of the seams are opening up. I don't know. We would have a lot more cracks in the brick work if that were really a big issue. But I don't know for sure. All I know is it's under warranty, and we're gonna hold them to it.
Real quick, so those parapet walls, they want to widen them out to give more
Yeah.
flow down the stream?
The stream opening will be wider, and it'll allow more water to flow through. When the level rises, it acts as a restriction. So we're gonna move them back about 15 feet each. So the opening would be 30 feet wider. And anything we can do to improve or lessen the flooding, I think is what our goal here.
Sure.
If I could interject one thing, I would make sure we contact MWRD, and in specific, I believe it's Hay and Associates. They are planning to do some channel improvements along the channel, and I'm not certain what all those improvements are, whether widening, deepening, or whatever. But it may be an opportunity, since we are getting some federal money, we have some match, and the match is going to go up, I think, when we open up the bridge to a certain level or whatever. But I would at least have some conversation to see if there's going to be a benefit, certainly, to the flow by what you're saying. So maybe there could be a little extra contribution toward that piece of extra that, we may have to pay, in as much as you're gonna get 80% or whatever on the federal match. So it's definitely worth the conversation, or at least worth you with your engineering expertise with Hay and Associates to discuss the three bridges in mind, because if I recall correctly, when they redid Gardner, they left that bridge intact on Gardner. But the other two, we've had to remove rebar on Wedgewood that was sticking out into the roadway, and there's been a steel plate on the Gladstone Bridge for well over a year now. So I think a conversation with the principals to see what additional monies, if there's going to be a benefit for an enhanced flow with the movement, they may be willing to pick up a little extra.
We've been in contact with MWRD to make sure that when they remodel that stream with the reservoir, that they include the bridge, and they have included that. Our advantage here is that Burke, who's doing the bridge design, is also working with MWRD on that reservoir project.
Correct.
So they said that that definitely will be included in the new model, and it should take some additional homes out of the absolutely 500, and we think some of the 100-year
That's a
flood zone as well.
Yeah, I just don't want to make sure that gets missed.
Well, every issue like this that comes up, I do contact Catherine O'Connor's office and suggest that we could use a little financial help. They are the ones that collect money for stormwater in Cook County, and I won't be bashful. I will make a specific request to see if they can help us on this issue too, in that it provides not only upstream but downstream benefit.
That's my point. I just, don't want Hay and Associates to come up with some engineering criteria, and then all of a sudden, we got to, oh, by the way, we're doing this, and then there hadn't been any prior conversation regarding some dollars. So whatever we save, we save.
Will do.
Melissa, you're up.
I just had one thing. We've scheduled the public hearing for the Chicago Highlands Golf Course for the clubhouse, and there's also a text amendment request.
When is it public hearing?
It'll be on April 10th, right here in the boardroom.
6, 7 o'clock?
7 p.m.
What's the text amendment?
It's to allow salons, like hair salons, in the B1 district.
Okay. Anything else, my dear?
Nope, that's it.
Miss Sherby, what have you for us this evening? Nothing? Okay. I'll pass as well. I may have an exec session, so I'm going to leave that off for right now. Is there a motion and a second to adjourn?
Motion.
Celeste? Angela? Please. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition, say no. No, we stand adjourned.